Oh, good. It's live. I believe so. Anyway, hi everybody. It's David Sosa. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit today about some of the still fighting this cough, but a little bit. It's basically gone, I promise. Um, I wanted to talk about the looking for practitioners of various spiritual practices to help in various different things. And one of the things I've been noticing lately has been a big call and or response, I should say, to hoodoo and conjure and root work. Now, I briefly got some information on that in my youth with someone who practiced, Miss Mary H. I'm going to leave it at that because she moved and had various health issues and always told me to keep low profile with her and the information she gave to me. So I don't really talk too much about conjure work in regards to what I was taught by her. And it was very small amount of things. But one thing I noticed, hey primo, one thing I noticed is that various people of color, various people who identify as Black American are doing various types of spiritual work, none of which they've been trained for, none of which has been ancestrally guided, and or blessed, none of which there's been any exchange of apprenticeship and mentorship in which to further learn. And that's something that I think is dangerous and speaks volumes. And so you have these folks preparing candles and selling them for $27, $25. You got folks making all types of soap with various ingredients, none of which they hardly ever share with you, none of which they probably can even pronounce. And so I guess what I'm trying to kind of say without saying is that as a consumer and as a person who is seeking spiritual guidance and or spiritual work by somebody you have come across online, you should be careful. You should think about where they come from. Especially, hey, let me just say this, especially when it comes to African traditional religions in any way, shape, or form. And I don't care if that's hoodoo conjure. I don't care if that is Lukumi, Isheshe, Nigeria. I don't care if that is Ifa, Palo Mayombe, Epiritimo, which I'll lump into the ATRs somewhat, but 21 divisions, I don't know, voodoo. Because what happens and what is understood within all those systems is that it's a license that one earns because it was all viewed as medicine. And so in the frame of trying to get y'all to think of why some of this stuff is so crazy for me to witness online is, can you imagine someone selling medicine with no pharmaceutical license? Can you imagine someone selling you scalpel for surgical use and they're not a surgeon? Can you imagine a doctor assessing your condition over the phone and giving you, an actual diagnosis without having really evaluated you physically and in person? Now, I'm not saying that people cannot pick up on things and or perform divination from afar. It depends on the type of divination. It depends on their skill set. It depends on their training and the system by which they work. And I think that that's important to mention before anyone gets ideas about what I'm trying to say. Personally, within Lukumi, reading should be done in person. Someone can have an evidencia from their muerto or egun, a message that comes through, which they'll feel inclined to share, and we'll share that. When it comes to divination with shells, and I'm going to leave Ifa alone. I am not an Ifa priest. I'm not going to speak about Ifa. That's just me. But with Dilogun, it is my belief that those readings should be done in person. They should not be done over the phone. I don't care how many books you've published. I don't care how many people you apprenticed with. Unless there's a dire emergency and for some reason that person cannot sit before you, then maybe. There should be no reason you're offering readings via Dilogun without the person being there. Here is my belief. No one has to believe this shit. My belief. The handling of the tools, the ibos, the invocation that's done there, the gestures that are done prior to you getting read, and points of your body that are touched and touched to the divination tool. Those are all not just symbolic. They are representative of a introduction to one's energy field, to one's body physically, and then by extension spiritually. So there are things that are done that cannot be done when you live miles away and you're on the phone or if you're over the computer. So what I ask people is to corroborate. Ask other people, have you been read before? Who have you got read by? What manner was it read by? What were the results? Did you feel? And get a proof. Get some stories behind it so you can corroborate what works and what doesn't work. Especially if you have existing priesthoods, do not be afraid to reach out to existing priests. Granted, some of us do not like to talk to new people. Partially because people are crazy. People feel entitled to your information. They feel that because they ask anything, you should answer, and you should answer in a timely fashion according to their schedule and their convenience. Trust me, I come across many of these people online myself. So some of the priests are guarded in our information. Some of us just side-eye the fuck of whoever answers us a question initially. Sometimes. I try my best to answer as many questions online and via my PMs as possible. To guide people and to help people on their paths if it's within my expertise to do so, or within my professional opinion, so to speak, as a priest. Other than that, it is what it is. I don't have to answer you. I have a life. I have a man. I have a job. I got a career. I got things to do, and they don't revolve around your schedule. So I may not answer you a day or two later, and if you're upset about that, that's fine. Don't ask me shit. So there's a lot of that happens, but still, reach out. What do you have to lose? Reach out to priests, existing priests, and ask them, hey, does this happen? Is this how it's done? And get a few people to corroborate maybe, what it is that you're looking for spiritually by way of divination. Again, medicine. So there are some things with spiritual properties that can be given across the board. And a good spiritualist and or a good person who's spiritually in tune can invoke and or get those properties to work as needed for the person in question, the person in need. And then there are people who make baths marked by divination specifically for that person and specifically for what they're going through. All right. And I need to make a distinction with that because, you have to know those differences. You have to know. And this is where people's expertise, people's credentials come into play. I have a wonderful sister right now who I know who is a Lukumi priestess, a Oshun, who is making her own spiritual baths. And she's making them in a special pre-order. Her name is TD Gonzalez. She is also on Facebook. And she's making, hey Dana, she's making these wonderful baths that are like general baths with her herbal knowledge, right? Of a result that they will bring to the person who utilizes them correctly. And then you have people who will sell you anything. And so, I saw the other day somebody was making supposed black soap with what looked like, I swear to God, looked like somebody broke open a tea bag and packed down this piece of soap with it, and they were selling it. And I'm like, what is that herb exactly? You couldn't tell. So, 6 one half dozen of the other. Just saying, there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of things. And you should be very interested in their credentials. People who shy away from answering questions about where they got their training and from whom, that should be a big red flag. People claiming witchery and hoodoo and conjure. Who trained you? Anyone who tells you that hoodoo and conjure is completely non-initiatory, is that make the right word? That does not require initiation, you should look at them a certain way. I'm not saying it's a ceremony in the likes of what Ocha is, or Palo, whatever the case may be. However, there were tests done to see people were two-spirited, people had two heads, how they worked their hands, and what their skill sets were. Whether that was mojo bags, whether that was dust and powders, whether that was spirit communication and actual conjuring of entities and energies. There were people who can speak life into plants through rhymes and through prayers and through various things. So people who, just put some olive oil and candle, that's what grandma used to do, and rolled it in some basil, that may work for that person based on their ancestral connection, if that really came from their grandmother and before, but it may not work for other people, that they're clients, so to speak. And there's a level of connection that happens in that world that I don't think people talk about. And I will let people like, Liz and, Big Liz Ruth, y'all, and Minati Wilson, Robert Lucas, Candelo, Mbisa, and other people who are into conjure work speak about that if they choose to share this video or if they choose to jump on here. But, right, they try to take this voice away, but it's coming back. And so there's that. And I think that it's important to check credentials. You wouldn't go to a doctor whose license was not on their wall. You wouldn't go to a doctor, hopefully nowadays you haven't Googled. So Google has a whole network now where you can look at the doctor, find out where they trained, how long they trained, what their specialty was. This is what's out there. And it's for a reason. It goes along the same route as those who do spiritual work. You should know who crowned me. You should know my lineage and my tradition. And I shouldn't be hesitant to let you know that. I mean, it may be a hesitant thing at first if you just came at the bat, well, who are you and what you do? And I'm like, relax. You don't even know my goddamn name yet. Like, chill out. But within reason, these are important questions, and people should want to relay that information as it applies, right? As it's applicable. You should know who you're working with and who's working for you. Apprenticeship, y'all, it's important in all of our traditions. We have to learn. It's a license. You don't put somebody in a car and just expect them to learn how to drive. You don't give them the keys to something they don't have nothing about. That's the reason why you have a written test even before you do a driving test. There's step by step, the steps one takes, and they're monitored by people of higher position, authority, and or experience to monitor who winds up with this license. And the same thing should happen in one's tradition, and especially if it's an African tradition. I can't speak on everybody's traditions, but an African tradition, specifically, there are keys, there are things, steps that are taken to see where one is at before they go to the next step. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So if you're new and you're learning, don't think, oh my God, I've been doing the same thing for 2 years. Maybe you haven't been able to get to that next step. Maybe your teacher is holding back because they're waiting for you to do more, to give more, to understand more, to delve in more, to take the initiative to learn, to show up to things and work. This is how we learn. I'm all for literature. I'm all for books. I've said it on countless videos. I'll say it again. I research a lot. There's nothing wrong with Google. There's nothing wrong with it at all. A lot of information's out there, beautiful information from a lot of literary works that have been corroborated and reviewed by various sources of scholarly sources. But you learn hands-on. Reading a book on surgery and performing surgery are two different things. So we're spiritual workers. We're like medicine men and women. We have to have the license to work. And we have to ethically know our limits and know what we can and cannot do or where we're at, so we can actually help the people who are coming to us. I have turned people away so many times because I felt I really could not help them. You know, as a spiritualist, there's certain things I know my fortes are. There's certain things that do not work. So I will ask other people I know who do work that way to do that work or to help and assist in that work with that person. If there's a particular type of reading somebody wants, I look for somebody who performs that type of reading that I know is reputable or that I've heard of or that I've referenced and trust the sources of and send that person their way. I'm not here to take people's money. And I'm not here to pat myself on the back because I think I'm all that, because I have an occasional good evidencia. This is not the way it works. And so calling for our ethics and our morals as spiritual workers so that we can know our limitations and our boundaries and always put that person's well-being first, especially if we're calling ourselves spiritual workers, if we're calling ourselves priests, you know. What's the topic today? What isn't the topic today? But I want people to think, you know, a lot of times I'm seeing these people right now, they're talking about fixing spiritual douches. Come on, y'all. And they got women buying it, talking about, I did the spiritual douche, and now the man I wanted is all over me. Girl, you bought a spiritual douche. Like, can we please? Somebody said they put together some Florida water and some herb or something and put it in a douche. Put it in a douche. Douches that come pre-sealed, which means they emptied the douche. And you don't even know how they emptied the douche. You're just trusting them. And you took this thing and you inserted it inside yourself and you squished and swished and let out. And have you ever heard of vagina care? Like, you can't just put any old thing up there. You know that. So think, folks. Just think. Use your head. Like, come on. Don't claim victimhood later because you got played or whatever the case may be. If from the start there were things that should have raised common sense red flags. I know some spiritual douches too, boo. They don't come in a bottle. But, right, coochie just a burning, chuck full of Colonia 1800 and cigar. I don't know. It just, there's no need for it. But people bought it, and they used it, and they swore by it. And that's the other thing, folks. Listen. The power of placebo and psychosomatic mind. There's actually a spiritual principle to why your mindset and your perception aid in your spiritual work. It's because if you believe it, you can manifest it. Placebo effect, y'all. People were given sugar cubes and told that was aspirin. They took it and their symptoms went away. What does that tell you? Think about it. I'm not going to give you the answer. I just want you to think about it. Think about what that means when buying some of these people's things. So anyway, I think I said enough, and I really hope that folks pay attention. Not everybody claiming to be Black, person of color, from the South, means that they know conjure or hoodoo. It's not the way it works. They may know some family traditional customs that are spiritual and that may work for them as a member of that family. But to practice as a spiritual worker for people based on a few things you know that work for you, based on family tradition and customs, that's a slippery slope. I don't know if it's ethical to promote yourself that way and to give yourself these titles and to sell certain products without having credentials. Like, who trained you? How long have you been doing this? Like who, how, and where? And check people's stories out. People be talking about, I'm into hoodoo, but ain't never been nowhere near the Bible Belt area of down south or anything. They from fucking, I don't even know. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful with people, what they claim, especially online. Take your time to know these people. If you see them peddling for products and money, you should pay attention to their word. Pay attention to how they treat their customers, how they talk to their customers. Pay attention to how they present themselves. That's a huge deal. Listen, call me come mierda, and you can call me that if you want to. I'm not calling myself ratchet root worker. I'm not calling myself ghetto thug warlock or whatever the fuck. I can't do trap witchery. I'm not doing it. I'm not twerking and casting spells. I'm not doing it. Sorry. Call me mierda if you want to. I'm sure there's a market for it. In fact, I know there is. There's these ratchet trap ass people who want to have nothing but spiritual products from people just like that. Do it. But to me, how one presents themselves and how one carries themselves online, out of online, in person, because hopefully if you're doing work for me, I kind of know you somewhat in person, or know someone who knows you, who can attest to your character as well as your skill. But I pay attention to those things. You know what I'm saying? I pay attention to where these spiritual products are coming from, these readings are coming from, and all that. So I know who I'm supporting and who I'm getting, the spiritual services from. That's important. It's really, really important. And people just playing games a lot of times, and they're playing dress up. And they're acting. And they're making money, good money, off of people who want something magical. They want to feel something. They're thirsty and they're hungry, especially people of color in this country who are disconnecting from the dogmatic Christianity. They're searching for a connection to something African or something indigenous, and they want it so bad, and they feel drawn to it, and they feel entitled to it, and they want it. And then people know that, and they prey on that ignorance, and they prey on that thirst, and they offer to give you these things and this insight into this something, and you jump on it. And next thing you know, you're a few $100 to $1,000 short. The life ain't really changed because you're expecting a candle and a bar of soap to do something you're not willing to do for yourself. That was a read, y'all. That was a read right there. That was an evidencia too. Hi, Holy Ghost. I talk about it in all of my videos. Do not expect spirit and or any amount of work to be done for you that you're not willing to do yourself in a physical form of life. You want a job? Do your work. Do your spiritual work. Burn your candle. You need to get out there with your resumes. They get out there on job fairs or some shit. You want a man? You gotta get out. You gotta leave your house. You want a girl? You gotta get out your house. Sorry. Nobody gonna come knocking on your door just because you lit a candle, a pink candle, and took a bath in fucking rose petals. I'm sorry. That's not the way it works. You gotta go out there. Someone has to catch the whiff of your specialness, of this magicness that you're putting in there, right? Of this thing you're putting out. How are you going to take all these baths and stay your ass at home depressed and expecting somebody to come for you? People talking about, everybody wants prosperity, everybody wants money, but they don't want to do anything to change their financial circumstance. They have a poverty mind. They think they can't have. They think they won't have. They think they don't have, and therefore they will not. Anybody who's anybody that became famous, Oprah Winfrey, Anybody, you name them, that came from relatively nothing, always at one point set an objective and a perception and saw this end goal of what they were going to have and what was for them, and they claimed it and they went for it, and things opened up and they manifested in that particular way. You cannot buy soaps and baths and candles and expect things to change in your life that you are not actively working on changing yourself, that you're not actively working on completing your life. Sorry. The spiritual things can help, but you got to help you. And that's what nobody's telling you. That's how they prey on you. Because they're going to sell you all this shit for you to do, and they ain't going to give you the tools or the word for you to help yourself, for you to draw on your own ancestry so that they don't have to make their own things, right? That you can start making your own decisions and start, doing your own baths and spiritual development and listening to your intuition and speaking to your peoples and drawing on all that. Very few people are doing it, But anyway, that's that. I talked enough. I'm going to get this cough together. Hey, Jenny Valmont. How you doing, mommy? How's a little baby? A little squishy face. Anyway, I'm out. Bye, y'all.